that's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm gonna change that tune when I'm back on top in June. I said that's life.
There it goes. That's how it happens. We just hit record
Awesome.
and then it just happens.
So we have the industry famous and probably world famous, because you're doing bigger and better things in car audio now, Mark Fukuda on. How's it going, buddy?
Great, man. Appreciate you guys inviting me to the show. It's been a long journey, and still, very entrenched in this business. Love it.
So Matt is a youngster. I feel like you were definitely at the top of the leaderboard to inspiration to me when I was coming up in car audio. I basically got started in the early 90s and was just so aware of the Blazer as the like iconic, just the pinnacle and what we were all trying to achieve or what we dreamed about being able to build. I would love to hear. We got a little bit at the expo of your overall history, but I need to know how we got to the Blazer, right? Like when you started, we kind of heard, I started in my parents' garage. I want to know, what was the first crazy system you heard? What got you hooked into audio, and where did you get these skills?
Wow, that's going to bring us back a long way. Whenever I was growing up, my father was a surgeon, and he was very good with his hands, orthopedic surgeon, and he had a passion for architecture, and that was kind of his hobby. And he was building us a house. I was 13 years old when we started building that house. Little did I know I was going to become his main carpenter whenever I was a early teenager. And on the weekends, he would have projects for us. We would, do full, tile floors or flagstone floors or volcanic rock walls or granite rock walls. We did all kinds of fabrication to this house, but it was, very unique and different. My father was, full-blooded Japanese. My mother's full-blooded Scottish. So I grew up in a very diverse household with these two very, very different cultures. And the house was kind of a split between very Japanese soji screens and, very light woods, oaks and maples, and very organic looking with a lot of rocks, natural rocks all over the place, and just boulders inside of a house. It was bizarre, but it looked really cool. So I grew up, thinking that was normal to be able to. I was cutting on a table saw whenever I was 13, 14, using a router whenever I was that old. I was building redwood walls out of redwood planks, ceilings, very traditional Japanese style looking. I didn't know what I was building. I was just doing what my father said. Hey, I need you to cut these boards. I need you to measure that out, and I need you to nail these up here. So I think early on, the skill side of it came from just the jobs that we were doing at our house and just the building. And he would have the builders build the actual house and the studs and all, but leave a lot of it to where he would have to do the finishing, tile work, anything on the wall, anything on the ceiling. So that's where I learned a lot of fabrication skills early on, cutting marble, cutting stone. A lot of this was by hand. There wasn't a lot of, automated tools back then.
And did he have some of those skills already? Was he taught and passed them on to you? Or it's not like there was Google to go look, how do I cut a piece of stone?
You're right. I think, going back, my grandfather, his father, owned a metal fabrication shop in Japan, which was attached to their home. And, I hear the stories from my dad when I was growing up that his dad wanted him to be part of that business as his brothers were. And, they were always, asked to join in and work. And and help the family business. My father really wasn't as interested, but that's where he learned a lot of his skills. At night, my dad would, be under his covers studying because he wanted to go to medical school, but his father didn't want him to go. His father wanted him to work in the business. So he ended up, back then, you didn't have to go to high school to go to college. All you had to do is pass the college entrance exams. So my father would study at night, unbeknownst to my grandfather. And when it came to passing or taking the test to go to college, he passed the test to go to college. And my grandfather didn't have the money to send him to college, so he borrowed money from one of his childhood friends' parents to go to medical school. Crazy story, but it happened. And then years later, after my dad moved to the States and obviously had a family and had a very successful practice, he went back to Japan and I guess I wouldn't say pay the guy back, but he did some nice things for this guy and his family, first for helping him out and sending him to medical school.
That's awesome.
Yeah, crazy story.
It's all starting to make sense, Gary.
Yes.
I know the connections are a little bizarre, but early on, I've always had a skill. And my father, because I have a twin brother, and I have a 3-year-old younger brother, and I have a 13-year-old younger brother. So myself and my twin brother were kind of the ones that were asked to help. But I was always the one that would excel and be asked to do the more complicated things when we were growing up. And then the other side of it, my father, because he was a medical doctor, he was also an inventor. He had 13 U.S. and international patents for medical equipment. And guess who was building all the prototypes? You're looking at him. So I was the guy that was building all those because he wasn't as good physically with his hands to build some of those things. He was real good at drawing. So my dad would come home from the hospital, draw a bunch of things that he was thinking of. And then he would bring them to me and say, hey, can you build this? And so I was in the garage building my dad's inventions. Little did I know I should have focused there and went nowhere else.
Right.
Because I would have been a quadrillionaire if they have such a thing. Because my father passed away relatively early. And all those patents that he had kind of just played out. And some of them were manufactured. One of the patents you guys probably would know is the medical suture staple. So when you get operated on, you get stapled.
Wow.
He invented the first medical stapler and retractor as well.
Wow.
So
I've had those staples in my head before.
See? And I didn't get paid.
Water skiing accident.
Right.
It was like 16 of them right there in the head.
Listen, if I would have, when you're a kid, you're in high school, you're thinking cars and girls, and you're not really thinking about, oh my God, my dad wants me to do something else. Come on, Dad, I got important things to do, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So, little did I know.
What about the audio side? What
So the audio
made
side,
influence?
my father was also interested in love music. He had vintage 1972 Macintosh solid state equipment. I still have that today, and it's still in working condition. And he had Altec Lansing Santiago's is what he had. 811B horns, 515 woofer. That's what came in those cabinets. And it's funny, I didn't know then, but I know now because I collect Altec speakers as well. But he was in the audio to listen, not necessarily for the nuts and bolts of it. But whenever I was 13, 14 years old, I would always take his stuff apart, take the speakers apart, take the back of the cabinets off, because I wanted to see what was inside. By the time I was 16, I was DJing for my high school, for my junior high then, my high school. I was building all my own cabinets. And I didn't have any money, really. I mean, I just, worked when I was younger, 16, 17, worked at Bell's Shoe Store. And the Radio Shack was right down the way. So I'd use all my money to buy Radio Shack stuff. And I would buy Radio Shack drivers. They used to sell raw drivers back then. And I would build my own boxes and I would paint the JBL logo on them because I wanted to be cool, So that's what I did. And that really kind of was the early, part of the fabrication side of electronics for me. And then whenever I was 16 and a half, 17, my parents got me a pair of PV speakers. I don't remember the models, but I still have them. They're in storage. 15-inch with horn and 2 piezo electric tweeter. Terrible sounding, but they were big and gnarly. And I had them hooked up to my Yamaha receiver, and I thought it was really cool. So it just, that kind of stuff just really perpetuated my interest in audio, and always loved big speakers. I still today, out of everything else, I love big Pro cabinets. I have a bunch of Pro cabinets here in my house. I have over 130 speakers in my house. I have 30 subwoofers in my house. I have 180,000 watts of power in my house. But it's not, electronics are cool, but I love big speakers. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. I just very, very intrigued
It's nostalgic
by those. Yeah, it's just cool. And I've got a collection of Altec stuff. I have, you guys can look it up, but Altec Lansing, they're A5s, and they're the 515, 15 cellular horns with the 828 cabinets. I used them in movie theaters. I have an LCR setup of those, all like in pristine condition. I have the Altec Lansing A2s, which are, there's 8-foot tall cabinets for dual 515 woofers with the 515 drivers. I have some of those as well. So, big speakers is my deal. And that's probably why I did what I did.
I take it you have a listening room in your house now.
Yes, I have a listening room. I've had several versions of a listening room, but when you have kids, it kind of gets taken over. Mm-hmm. And I had my Altecs there for some time, and then I had to move them out because my kids kept poking the cones. So moved them out, and they're in my office now. And I'm going to wait till they get big because, I've got a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, so that's their game room, playroom, if you will. So it's hard to have a true listening room when you have that many small kids.
I think they'll appreciate it when they get into their teenage years and they really want to listen to some music.
I think so. Absolutely.
Okay, so what was the first install? What was the first thing that you put in? And
well, I can tell you the first thing I took apart in a car was my dad's 1971 Mercedes. He had, and he worked all his life to, he went to school to be a doctor, and that was his dream car, was to drive a Mercedes and smoke a cigar. And I was in junior high. I think I was in 6th grade, and he was a doctor, so he had a dictation machine. It was like a cassette player, but smaller cassettes. He had a cassette player, dictation machine, and he had one of the first cell phones that looked like a old rotary dial phone with a big thing in the back. So anyways, dictation machine broke in his Mercedes, and he took my mother's car to work, and so I took it upon myself to fix it. So I took the console out, took the whole thing apart, and fixed the dictation machine and put it all back together before he came home. So that was the first thing I took apart.
Wow.
My first install, I'm kind of embarrassed to even say, but was in my mom's 1978 Lincoln Town Car. It looked like a hearse. It was probably 20 feet long. And I did an EQ booster, I can't remember, maybe a Craig. And I put some big home speakers in the back seat. That was my really my first install.
Was that for you or for her?
Oh, no. That was for me. I actually took over that car. So this was probably 79.
Wow.
Because it was a 78. So it was relatively new. It was brown with an orange pinstripe. The ugliest car you ever saw with the wire wheels. But hey, I thought it was cool. I had tinted the windows dark and put this big audio system in it. My poor mother, now that I think about it. But that was really the first install. I wouldn't say the first professional install. It was just kind of my version of an install. But I thought I was doing something good. And then it proceeded on. I think the next one was my first car was a 1982 280ZX. Got a brand new. My brother and I both got brand new cars for graduation, which we were obviously very lucky. And that install had, I think, 8 Alphasonic amplifiers, 4 Alpine 10-inch woofers. It was the Alpine woofer that was foam on the front. I don't know if you remember those.
I've seen one.
They were foam and had Alpine embossed. And I built a wood box with a plexiglass front in 1982.
So your first car was go
seen-
big or go home, is what you're saying.
Oh, man, let me tell you, there was so much crap in that car. When you opened the back of it, you couldn't see anything but wires and amps. It was awesome.
So where did you know? Where did you get your information from? How did you know that product existed? Was there a shop
That's a
that you
good
went
question.
to, or
So there was no internet, obviously. There was nothing on TV, obviously, and my friends didn't know anything about it. And back then, you couldn't even buy really wheels for your car. They didn't have very many, wheel select. Maybe Krager Super, what are those SS wheels? I remember those.
Yeah.
That was it. There wasn't like all the wheels that they have and the exhaust and suspension. There was none of that aftermarket stuff back then. I think there was 2 stores. The main one that I remember, I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it was in Beaumont. So it was a town quite a ways away from me, about 30 miles away. All Star Audio. That's what it was. And they sold Alphasonic, ADS, Sony, Alpine, and that's really, whenever I had my first car, I would go to the audio stores and I would hang out and I wouldn't leave. I was there all day. And I would just, talk to the sales guys, got to be friends with a lot of these sales guys, and every bit of money that I could either get from my parents or from my shoe. I was a shoe salesman at Bell's, believe it or not. Every penny went to buy audio, everything. I mean, you name it. I would buy, and I would buy a lot of it. It wasn't just a couple pieces here and there. I had lots and lots of. I wish I still had it all, actually, but
Yeah.
every penny I got was awesome.
Okay, so you get the Z done. And that's your first. Had you seen plexiglass used on an enclosure before somewhere, or were you just thinking outside the box?
So the story with the Z was I drove my mom's Lincoln until I got a car. My brother drove a pickup truck my dad had. The first day that we got the car, this is no lie, first day the cars were delivered to our house. That first day, the seats, the console, and the carpet were out of that car in the driveway. My mother's in the house crying to my father, saying, "He's taking the car apart. It's all apart. A brand new car." She was all upset. And my father said, just leave him alone. He'll be fine. So my father knew that that's what I would do. My mother was really upset because I had the brand new car apart. But, I don't know where I learned about acrylic. And it was actually back painted acrylic. So the box, I wish I had a picture of it. I do have the faceplate that went in the ashtray that was back painted that lit up.
Wow.
And this was 1982. But the front of it was back painted, red, white, and then it had the woofers mounted. And then the acrylic went over the top, so it covered the screws. And it was, for back then, and it lit up Alpine. There was a logo that lit up.
Wow.
It was pretty crazy.
That is.
But I don't know where I learned about acrylic. I really don't.
You're revolutionizing car audio before I was even conceived.
Well, I hear that a lot. Either they weren't born or they were in junior high and elementary school. One of the two.
Kind of to piggyback on what Gary was saying, like the backlit acrylic and the back painted acrylic, like where does this inspiration come from?
I don't know where.
Nothing you're seeing at the time.
No, there was nothing like that. But, later on, whenever I was in college, I went for commercial advertising, commercial graphic design. So I've always kind of had an artsy side to me. And maybe that is where that came from, but I never saw it anywhere. And if you guys have ever really looked at the Blazer, I built that in 1988, originally started in 1988. A lot of the things in that Blazer, from a graphical standpoint and from a cosmetic standpoint, in my opinion, that's where, even the van, you guys just saw a van recently, a month ago. I think a lot of, and although I didn't go to school and use my schooling to my career, I think because I had, that side of me, I've been able to utilize that with a lot of the things that I've done, even when I was very, very young, because I've had that skill as far as artistic skill.
And I'm sure that's going to tie in when we get to the name of your retail store, when we get to that point.
It does, exactly. Yes. Yes.
So let's get from where we are to opening a retail store. How did that path happen? You were in
high school, started tinting windows for my buddies, had my 280, and I wasn't graduated yet because I was young when I was in high school. I was a year ahead, not because I was a brilliant student. It was because my parents, just the timing of it all, right? And high school, started tinting windows, and I started tinting windows quite frequently. And my father said, you need to start charging all your friends and people for doing this. If you're that good at it and you've got these many cars to do. I'm like, well, maybe, I guess. So a friend of mine went in with me and we bought some window film. And then, I started going to college and I started tinting windows, and we were kind of partners in the deal. But I think it was too much work for him and he bailed out. So I kept doing it. I was going to college in the evenings, and during the day I was tinting windows. And I was doing 6 to 7 cars a day, and I was doing it out of my parents' garage. So where I lived in Bridge City, Texas, it's kind of, blue collar, a lot of plant worker, refinery guys. They would bring me their cars 5:30, 6 in the morning, and they wouldn't talk to me then. They would, tell me, hey, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to bring my car. They would just drop it off. So, by 7 o'clock, the driveway was full of cars. And then I would get up, tint all the cars, and then I would go to school. And it was a pretty good deal. And I had one guy that was cleaning windows for me, and I just put the film on. And my father was like, and then I started doing car stereo, kind of at the same time. And then the cars began to multiply. And he's like, I can't get in my own driveway. You're going to have to get out. You're going to have to get someplace besides our driveway and our, shop. Because my father had a 9-car garage because he collected cars, older Mercedes. And I pulled all his cars out, and then I would work inside that shop. And then he was like, you're going to have to go find a place. And especially when the audio stuff started, because then the noise,
the cars started exploding into pieces.
He's tired. He's worked all day, and he'd come home, and all he'd hear me work until 8, 10 o'clock at night, banging on these systems. He's like, it's done. So I went to the bank, borrowed money, and started a business. And I can't believe they let me borrow money, or I even signed a lease for a place. It's like, you couldn't do that today, right? But I did both. And I started my retail store and started doing, I did window tint and car stereo. And then, I learned what business was really about in those first couple of years, because I had it good being at my parents' garage. Paid no taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Paid, no rent, no utilities. I mean, it was a wonderful gig.
Yeah.
But, my dad had to give me a dose of reality. So that's how it started.
And the name of that store was?
Autographics. Yeah,
right.
Autographics.
So how does that tie in?
It was Autographics because it was window tint. I started window tinting first. And then after the window tint, I started doing custom graphics on windows. And I don't know if you guys remember years and years ago, graphics on windows, I did airbrushing and etching with a rotary etcher. That was a big deal, and sandblasting. Okay. So that was kind of a big deal back then, and that's how the name Autographics came about. So it wasn't car stereo necessarily at the time. It morphed into car stereo, so I just kept the name Autographics and then made it Autographics Car Audio.
How did that progress to The Blazer, I have to assume, was purpose built for competition.
Yes, yes. So the retail store was kind of a multi-step. I started in a smaller building, and then graduated into a bigger building on the main drag, if you will. Right, Bridge City's not a big town, so I think it's 8,000 people at the most at the time. And I was, that's when George Reed, Thunder on Wheels, and the competitive scene started was, in the mid to late 80s, 84, 85. I think 84 was the first year. And in Beaumont, All Pro Audio, which was one of the first Thunder on Wheels champions after Wayne Harris, they were a retail store and they built an Astro van. I don't remember if it had 8, 10, 15s. They were the champions 86, 87. And then, when you're so close to that, and I was in retail, I was building competitive vehicles as well for my customers. So I was building vehicles, and I didn't have Rockford. I had Orion, I had Precision Power, and I was building vehicles with that product. And I was building a lot of the consumer, 101 250, 250 1-500, so on and so forth. And very successful with those builds in Thunder on Wheels. And then George Reed, at some point, called me to his office. He was the owner of Marketing Professionals. He was the Rockford rep in our territory. And I went and visited him. He said, I'm getting tired of you beating my guys, beating my cars. I want you to start selling Rockford. Because, I tried to get it, but it was pretty much on lockdown because of All Pro Audio. And they were the name at the time. So finally, I got Rockford and started selling it. And shortly thereafter, I decided, I want to probably think about building something for myself. But what really sparked that was 1987. I went to a finals event or a contest. See, I told you. I went to a contest in Houston. I lived in Bridge City. So I went to a contest, and Tom Fichter, I don't know if you guys know this guy. Tom Fichter with ASC was the reigning Thunder on Wheels champion. He had won it in 87. He won it in 88. And he won it in 89. This guy had a white and pink 4Runner, four-wheel drive, really big, lifted up thing. And he was running all Rockford. And he was George Reed's, competitor, if you will. And he was the champion. He was at this contest. And that was the first time I saw him. And I'm watching this going, wow, that's amazing. And they went through the contest, and then he went through SPL, and I'm going, wow, that guy's, I got to beat that guy. That's the first thing that I thought of is I want to be that guy. So I had a picture of his truck, and I put it on my Blazer I actually drove my Blazer to that event, and it was black. It was black and gold. It wasn't yellow. And when I came home, I said, you know what? I'm going to build my truck to beat that guy. Put a picture of his truck on my windshield, and I set out on a 2-year journey to beat that guy. And 1990 Thunder on Wheels final, November. I don't remember the exact date, but it was Thanksgiving weekend. I competed against him, and I beat him. And the pretty cool thing is about all that is Tom and I are very good friends now. And we've stayed in touch throughout all these years. He went on to do four-wheel drive parts, sold his company to PE. He's done very well. He just got married a month ago, and I was at his wedding. But we still talk about those days that we both have motivated each other to be, better, stronger, and, more successful, if you will.
So you would say that car was the thing that kind of started your acceleration to okay, it doesn't matter what's going on, I'm going to be better and I'm going to get better.
I think for the competing arena for myself, yes, because I was already in the competing arena with cars that I've built, and I had some national champions, if you will, in a bunch of different classes. but I wanted to be in the biggest class, and I wanted to be the guy. That's what my dream was to do. And it almost, no, I won't say almost, it became an obsession, because I had a retail store too, but it became an obsession. There's no question about it. And it lasted all the way until the last year that I competed in 95. And, you know, at that point I had to stop to take the next steps for my career, because I knew competing was changing, and you know, the things that were happening in the industry were changing. So I had to do something different.
One question for you. You were building customer cars that were competing. How did that introduction to competition happen? Was it customers came to you and said, I want to build a system to compete with, or were you kind of actively learning about competition before that?
So my first, I guess, entry into the competitive world was, I had two cars after the 280. I had a 83 Supra, and I had a 1985 Mustang SVO. So the Supra, I think I told you guys that All-Star Audio was the place that I used to buy all my product, and they were the Alpine dealer. They would host, before I even knew about Thunder on Wheels, car audio shows, but they were kind of very, you know, low key, and it wasn't really about the SPL side of it. It was more the sound quality. I don't even really remember if it was much on the install either. And then in my Supra, I had a very small system in it. I believe it had two 15s, and I competed with that vehicle. That was kind of my first one. And then and it had two Rockford amps in it too. It had a Power 200 with the Prezi EQ. I remember the EQ with the slider sideways. And then it had Punch 75 for the top end. And then the next vehicle, my SVO, was a little bit bigger system, 415s and, you know, EQs and Rockford amplifiers. So I think the first real competitive vehicle was my 1983 Supra. And I showed a picture of it at the expo. It had, at that time, two 12s and two 10s with a Power 200 and a Punch 75.
So, okay, so we're building the Blazer. You get it done in what year? It was 80. Was it 88?
So I started in 88, and I wasn't completed until the show in November, the Thunder on Wheels finals. I was on the trailer, not down the highway, but when we got close to the Astro Arena in Houston, I was inside the truck tuning it while we were driving it to the show. It's no lie. The steering wheel wasn't on it. I was still tuning it. It was me and a buddy of mine, and another buddy of mine was pulling us down the, I don't remember if it's Post Oak or one of the roads close, Fannin. That's what it was, Fannin Street. And that thing was not really completed until I almost had to run through the line to the lanes. It was that close.
And you were competing SPL and SoundQ at this point?
Yes. So the format was install, sound quality, RTA, SPL. I was doing the whole deal. I mean, back then, Thunder on Wheels, you did the whole thing. It wasn't a separate event. It was all inclusive. And I have the original score sheet from that event as well.
And run us through that system. I just remember 1615s if that's
so
what it
there's and you guys know there's been many reiterations of the vehicle, of the Blazer. Originally it had 4 Power 1000s, Rockford 1000s, 1615s. It had a Power 1000 that ran all the high end, and it was all passive networks. And then it had a Punch 150, I believe, for center channel. So it had a center channel, Power 1000 for all the other stuff, and everything was passive crossovers. I built all the passive networks. It took me 2 months to do the networks. The system was the security system was a VSC Quantum with 30 functions of remote control capability. And it was all in the tailgate, and I'm sure you guys have seen pictures of that. And a lot of really cool things that people still have never even heard of. EL lighting is what I did instead of neon or LED. It didn't have LED. And I did all silver cable. I did a lot of really cool distribution blocks and stuff. I used to get a lot of my parts from Skycraft in Florida. Skycraft is a NASA supply surplus place, and that's where I learned a lot of, or I got different products like that. That it wasn't car stereo stuff necessarily, just cool, different, crazy, expensive stuff that just made the install that much better. But the EL lighting is something that still today I haven't seen, and it's electroluminescent lighting. It's flat panel. It's bendable. Runs off of a high voltage power supply.
Like speedometer clusters, right?
Exactly. Similar to that. They used to use it a long time ago in cell phones. Backlit. They used to use it for backlighting displays and things like that. But a lot of innovative things in that truck. When I'm thinking about all the things that I did back then, but it was a cool install for sure.
Do you have a tally on the hours into that thing?
I'm kind of glad maybe I don't, but it was kind of it was almost like a repetitive type of change that happened. You go to a show, or I went to a show, and you guys understand that if you're competing, and especially if you're winning, then everyone wants to beat you, right? You become that guy. And so as soon as I was done competing and the truck was home, the truck was coming apart, and it was making improvements to all the things that I felt or saw or got scored, unfavorably on. Those things were coming out, and I was making changes to make sure that I am going to focus on making this thing to where there's no way that someone can deduct points for any reason whatsoever.
Now, how many people had your picture on their windshield?
At
this moment in time?
I think you probably are right in the fact that I think more than consumers, there was a lot of manufacturers. It was very bizarre to me that I was a dealer, so I was a pro level guy. I wasn't a manufacturer level guy, but I had a lot of manufacturers chasing me to beat me at SPL. Which is crazy because I'm a consumer in a sense, right?
Right.
But I had all these manufacturers. I had JL, I had, especially Servo and Vega was a big one. Those guys were after me for a long time. Savard, Lanzar, Boss Audio. I mean, all these guys, all these manufacturers, it wasn't really consumers. But I think that's where my picture is on those guys' cars.
And so how does that progress out of the retail store? What's I would say that the next chapter, the Blazer ran, you said basically 90, 89, 90 through
96.
95.
I ran, the last year that I actually competed was 95, but I held a record until 96. But I competed with that truck for 5 years straight. Yes. And then once it got to the point to where, the vehicles, and we all know vehicles in 96 started to change to where they weren't a vehicle anymore. They were an enclosure inside of a car. It wasn't about, I'm talking about more the SPL side of it. And it really wasn't possible to compete in a vehicle and do SPL and sound quality in the same vehicle because the dynamics of the SPL world were changing. When I saw that, I realized, the whole intent for me to be in this competitive arena is to promote my business, to promote audio sales, to promote high performance audio sound quality. That's really what the whole thing was about. And I was able to use that throughout those years when I competed and won to sell car stereo. And that's what I did. And then when I saw that changing, I realized, one, the competitive landscape is going to change drastically. And I realized that it's probably going to change in both sides, not just the SPL side, but also the sound quality side, which it did. because the sound quality side became so esoteric, so high end, so about things that you just don't buy at a retail level. You're looking at, aperiodic membranes and, horns and time alignment and all this stuff. That's not really mainstream audio back in the early 90s or mid 90s. So I realized, this is changing too much. I wanted to exit the competitive space because of that. I still wanted to stay in audio, but I realized, I wanted to go into the next phase of my career. I want to go from this to something else. And I had an opportunity because my head installer wanted to buy the store. So it kind of all lined up at the same time.
And what happened?
So he
sold the store?
bought the store in 96. I moved to Houston. I started my fast training school. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Started that, and it was kind of the precursor to mobile solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on from that to building a high-end custom theater company. So I did, it was almost like a kit, but it was custom. So what we would do is we would go in, spec a theater. I would do all the CAD drawings, and then we would go build it at our shop, and we'd install it all in one day. Typically one day, sometimes two. And we were doing that in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Were you sharing that facility?
Both. I was doing
training?
both. I was doing fast.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing fabrication training, electrical training, acoustic training, and then we were also doing the Cleopatra Home Theater at the same time.
When you say we, how big was the team?
It was me and my younger brother Ainsley, and probably on the Cleopatra side there was 5 guys, and then on the fast side there was 4 guys. But I was doing both. I was playing kind of double duty. I'd do trainings one day, and I'd be out, either bidding a job or drawing it or fabricating and we did some really cool stuff. I learned a lot of really neat stuff doing the theaters because what we would do is we would build one theater, and it could be, decorative type columns and capitals, Corinthian style, or it could be very modern. But either way, or it could be Art Deco style. We would build everything in a kind of a mold fashion. I'd build bucks, or I'd build moldable pieces. It could be trim, whatever it might be. And then we would mold everything in silicone rubber, and we would duplicate it. It was either in urethane plastic, or I did urethane foam injected plastic parts. Kind of precursor maybe to 3D printing. And then we do rotocasting. So a lot of my columns that we would build were very decorative, very complex. I would build one, and sometimes I would build it out of wood and then make everything out of clay, all the decorative part out of clay. So I'd sculpt it all out of clay. And then I would silicone mold it, and then we would build a mold tray that would fit on the rotocast machine. I had 3 really big XYZ rotocast machines that we would rotocast. It'd be good for making speaker enclosures, actually. I even thought about, hey, we need to get the speaker enclosure business, but we never did. But that principle, I learned a lot about doing that. And then we also had a Gusmer urethane machine that was a part AB. Now everyone uses them for bed liners.
Packaging.
Bed liners.
Oh.
But
Okay.
This material was an AB urethane, but and they use it like for Disney characters at Disney. They'll machine something out of foam, and then they spray the hard coat, and they use a Gusmer urethane machine for that. We had one of those, and we built parts like that.
I would love to see some of these pictures of some of your most impressive, complex home stuff after this. I would love to see and get a photo to what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine, but it's definitely a different world. But to me, it's just like audio. Audio, regardless of where it is, it's still audio, right? The principles all still apply. The physics still all apply.
Yeah.
To me, fabrication is kind of in the same realm, to where no matter if it's, because I build a lot of stuff in my house, and I've built a lot of different cars and different planes and helicopters, you name it, boats. It all still applies. It's the basic principles are all the same, right?
Yeah. One of my questions for you was going to be, what is your favorite thing that you've ever built in a car? And it could be just like one accessory, one part of a car, like what you felt most accomplished in building, and then also apply that to outside a car. So whether it's a home project, whatever it is, what's your most favorite thing that you've built in a home or in a car?
That's tough. I think that the electronics that I have in my Blazer were probably my most favorite, because it had a lot of things that, one, people don't know about. Two, I had an engineer that worked with me very closely. He was a good friend of mine, and we built a lot of cool stuff. And I think, not cosmetics so much, because to me, when I look at the Blazer, I'm like, ugh, man, that doesn't look so good, compared to today's standards. The van, not too bad, but still to today's standards, to me, I think things are in a sense better, if you will. But I think the electronic side of the Blazer was very cool. The security system in that thing, which was VSC, which back then most people just had alarm system, and I took it and made it to where it did 30 functions, and it operated all the stuff, from lighting to fans to the amplifier turn on to the preamp section to you name it. So to me, the electronics in that vehicle for back in the day, when I look at what was done, I still think there's a lot of things that people still haven't done like that today. The motorization, although archaic, there was no such thing as the motorization back in 1988. It didn't exist. Everything back then was either carpet or tweed. Nothing moved. Everything was very, you pull a panel off, and what was behind the panel will scare you to death. The front might look cool, but so I think, as far as install, I think the Blazer was the thing that I really drove, wiring technique and the electronic side of it more so than anything else I've ever built. Outside of car, probably my most favorite project is my closet that I'm building right now for my wife. It's pretty cool. It's I wouldn't say it looks like a retail store, but it does look like a retail store closet. It doesn't look like a closet from a house. It's all it's glass, ultra leather. It's walnut. It's I got a display that goes across the top that's for purses that are on acrylic little stand things. It's all backlit with some cool printed stuff, because I have a big roll printer at home that prints 52-inch clear film. So you can, they use them in retail when they print something and they backlight it, that clear material, and that's what's across the top, and it's got it's all backlit.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I think always, to me, when it comes to fabricating, it's the newest thing that I built is the coolest. Yeah. I drew, and that's more of the newer style, because I drew it all in SolidWorks, every piece of it. I machined it all on my CNC. I did, all the handles are acrylic. They're inserts sideways. The drawer fronts are 3-dimensional, and it's all covered with ultra leather with acrylic drawer front slides. So very different, but I'm using all new techniques where, back in the day I didn't have all that stuff, but I've got all that stuff in my house. So you can see my laser back there, but I build all that stuff. I don't build cars anymore. I just build stuff for my house.
Yeah. Is it almost done?
It's
I gotta see pictures of this.
80% done. I just got my glass doors from my shoe closet, or the shoe display things. It's all vertical lighting on all the divisions, and then I'm trying to think what else. The shelves are 2-inch and they're bezel cut. I mean, it's really different looking. Still got a little ways to go. I've got a door to build that hides another closet that's going to be kind of like a safe room, whatever. And it's going to be a mirror kind of thing that I haven't built that yet, but it's getting close. I've been working on it for 8 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah, spare time 8 months, which I don't have a lot of that.
It's funny how like the whole fabricating sign kind of transcends into the home, because like for me, like I'll go into Home Depot, I'll find all these different types of trim. I don't even know how like the home people would use the trim generally, but I'll just figure out how to layer everything together to create something that I think looks cool, and I just layer it like an install, and then I make my house essentially look like, you know, Vegas or something, and add layers of lighting around things to accent focal points and stuff like that. It's fun.
To me, it's a car is very similar because you have separate sections, right? You have the console, you've got door panels, you've got the rear, you got the amp rack, subwoofer. So there's, you know, it's a lot of different segments. A house is very much the same way to me.
It is, yeah.
You got your focal point maybe where you've got, you know, a TV that you're going to do something. I've got a sunroom that I built. I've got a fireplace that I built with subwoofers inside of it. I've got a bar that I built outside that's got 418s in it.
Hold on. Pause the podcast. You have a sub in your fireplace. Did I just hear that
yes,
correctly?
Yes, I have 2 18-inch subwoofers underneath my fireplace. I do. And I have 4 15s on the front wall in my living great room area. I built a porcelain wall. I don't know if you guys have seen the big sheets of porcelain. So it's big sheets of porcelain, and it's got an 85-inch TV that's flushed in. Then it's got a kind of a recessed grill, so you don't see any of the LCR speakers. And then I built a piece of furniture out of steel and walnut that looks like a piece of furniture, but there's 4 JBL 15s behind that. So I've got different parts of my house have, you know, something built, but all of it is to conceal subwoofers, believe it or not.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Have you ever spent an absurd amount of time, and we'll go back to the car stuff in this exact question. Did you ever spend a lot of time building something in which you scrapped it? Because I know that you always kind of pushed the envelope and tried new techniques, but was there ever something that you tried to do that never made it to production because you just couldn't execute it how you wanted to?
No, I don't think so.
Told you that was the answer. Matt told me he was going to ask you that earlier, and I said I don't think so.
No, listen, I am from the school because my father, you know, he was, you know, a man of very few words, but one of the things he did say is, listen, I don't care what you do, but you're going to be the best at whatever you're going to do, and you're not ever going to give up on anything. Like, okay. That's just, you know, what I was taught. But, I mean, listen, there's a lot of challenging things that I've come across for sure. I think that, you know, there's been times that I've had vehicles or projects that I look at and go, man, I wish I would have done this instead of that. And a lot of times I'm the guy that I'll go back after a project's finished, especially now. Back in when I was in retail, I didn't have the time. Now I will go back and I will change whatever makes me feel uncomfortable. And it's not about what someone else would ever know or whatever someone else would ever say, you know, that just doesn't look right. Or that proportion of that doesn't look right with this, or it's in the wrong place, or it's the wrong color. But I'll go back and change it. And my biggest challenge in anything and everything I've ever built is color. It's not shape. Color has always been something I struggle with. I'm sure you guys probably have something that when you come across it, it's like, I can't get the shape to flow with the rest of that. But I've never had issues with that. It's always been color, contrasting colors or complementary colors, or, you know, things going with whatever. I've struggled with that.
We joke about it, but there's been a couple things that Matt and I have both built that we get to the point where, like, you know what, I'd rather just start over, because you know like you're saying, when you know when it's on, you know when it's not right, and we've both scrapped a few things here and there to rebuild.
Absolutely.
And
I think in retail, when you're building cars, it's a different mindset. You're building something because you have a specific amount of time. You got a specific amount of resources, and you're getting paid a certain amount of money too, right? So all those things kind of weigh into, what that's going to be. When you're building a demo vehicle, kind of the same thing, but it's got to be built a little differently because of who's going to be handling it, where it's going to be going, and what it's used for. And then a competing vehicle, to me, is no holds bar. You got to be as far out there as you can because, 3 months later, someone's going to be catching up to whatever you just came out with. And it could be not just a competing vehicle, but I think I was in that same kind of thought process whenever I was at Rockford running RTTI, and we were building demo vehicles for CES. And that world became to where it was, who's going to build the best vehicle at CES kind of thing, which in my mind is kind of a competing vehicle thing.
So how do we let's go back to Blazers getting retired, and you're doing home theater. You have the fast training center, and how does that transition to you ending up at Rockford?
So there was 3 partners, and 2 of the partners were splitting up, and I decided at that time, it's probably best to exit, and we sold off everything that we had, and then I went to Rockford, and then one of the guys started a distribution company, car audio distribution company. And then one of the partners, kept the rep side of the company with a small distribution side of home audio. So we all kind of went our separate ways. Not really something that was in my control. It was the other 2 majority partners. That's what they wanted to do. So they ended up doing that. And, I went to Rockford, got an offer to go run RTTI. And, that was a big move for me, going from Texas to Arizona, different gig, kind of going back into car stereo in some respect, because I was a little bit outside of it doing the home theater stuff. But decided, I'm going to make a run at this, and went back in 2001.
I'm taking notes.
Are you creating a Fukuda timeline?
It's funny.
Well,
this whole conversation, I've never had this conversation with anyone. I mean, as far as the
it's
breadth,
riveting. It really is. Yeah.
From start to finish, I've never really just sat down and told someone how this whole thing,
the story, unfolded. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
When you got to Rockford, I'm trying to think. 01 has to be when you got there. Who was there? Brian was there.
Schmidt was there. Digos was there. Kyle Witherspoon, Mike Eckley, Josh Roberson, Mark Lowe. Mark Lowe was in more of design, product design, ID. Bill Jackson. Gary Suttle was still there, the CEO at the time. Gary Springay. Ron Trout, all those guys were still there. It wasn't as iconic as far as the landscape of people as it was back in the day. Carbonell was already gone, the speaker manufacturer in Michigan. So it had been downside quite a bit. But a lot of the guys still were there. Jerry Kay was there. Tony Candelo was still there. It was like a reunion when I went to the Mobile Solution Expo, because all those guys were there.
Oh yeah. And so when you come back 01, I'm trying to think what was the first big demo car then? Was it the Nissan
when
project,
I was there, when I first started, the Nissans were just getting wrapped up. The next vehicle was, I believe it was the Xterra. I don't know if you guys remember the Xterra. Had the big looking jet engine things in it. And then the next vehicle from that was the 350Z.
Z, probably.
Well, it was a little complicated back then because Rockford owned Omnify, MB Court, Lightning Audio, and Rockford. So we were building cars for all those brands, which made it a little complicated. And it was difficult to focus when you've got so many cars to build for different brands that have a different feel and look and, have really a different focus. And it was just myself, Brian, and Jason Digos really were kind of driving all of that. So it became a lot with all those different brands. For sure.
So how long did that Rockford ride last? And let's run through the cars real quick. Xterra 350Z.
It was the Xterra truck. It was 350Z. It was, I think it was a BMW for MB Court. It was maybe an Audi for Lightning Audio. And Omnify was just part of the gig with all of them. And we were also doing Rockford Fosgate Audionics stuff too at the same time. But I think most of the cars that we were doing were relatively simple cars, but the more complex ones were the CES ones that I just mentioned.
Yeah. Yep. And then you're doing RTI
right. And we were doing global trainings.
In between.
And at that time, I was developing the first interactive DVD training that they've ever had. And what that was about was, my focus was the rep firms. So I built this interactive training to where the training would go out and a rep could select from a menu in the DVD of what products, categories, SKUs that he wanted to cover. And then he can customize the front end slide. It was really a glorified PowerPoint, but he could separate it all out and build it.
That's cool. And
it would kick out exactly what he wanted as far as content for himself to do a training for, retail store or for whoever. And that was kind of a innovative kind of thing that I came up with when I was there. So I was focused a lot on that, not as much the car stuff. Brian and Digos were really focused on the car stuff more than I was. The Z is really the only car that I had to, because we were running out of time, I had to get in and I built the door panels on that thing. Door panels, part of the center console, the insert to the center console, designed a lot of the little aluminum parts and stuff like that. But for the most part, I was focused on training stuff.
I remember the floorboards in there had the back printed, just like
that's
you talked
EL.
About for your wife's closet. Had the back printed and the EL.
Right, that's where that came from.
I was paying attention.
I'm glad somebody was.
And then how did that unwind? How did the Rockford separation?
So I was there for about 6 years, and I noticed, I went from being an RTTI. And then I transitioned to being a regional sales manager because, again, I kind of felt like, I want to make a step, do something a little different, expand kind of my technical understanding of this business. So I went into sales, did that, and I got a phone call from my ex-partner from Fast and from Cleopatra, and we also had a rep distribution company at the time. And his non-compete was up. He's like, man, you got to come back and let's start a new rep company. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to move back to Texas, but kind of the timing was right. So I moved back and started a manufacturer rep company with him. And that was in 2006, December. And 2007, January, I was at CES pimping lines and getting car stereo lines and home lines. And believe it or not. So I was back in Houston doing that gig. Did that for a couple of years, built that business up. And at the same time, my same partner owned Wave Electronics, which was a distribution company in the CEDIA space. And it's all residential type products. And he said, I'm having issues with the guy that's running the deal, and I need you to come in and help me. So I started doing both. I was a VP of sales for Wave, and I was the president operator of Momentum Marketing, which was the rep firm. And eventually I ended up selling, we both ended up selling the rep firm to the managers, kind of our MO. And then I went on to be president of Wave Electronics, and I'm still there today as CEO.
That is a hell of a
Hell
journey.
of a ride.
I know. It's tiring. Let me tell you.
So what about Wave? So what kind of stuff? I know it's automation.
So
right?
we cater
Audio.
to the CEDIA integrator, which, anybody that goes in your house and does audio, video, control, security, we sell those guys product. We sell the remaining brick and mortars that are around. We sell Magnolia stores. We sell a lot of the national buying groups. And we sell a lot of the security dealer programs like ADT, which you guys, I'm sure, have heard of ADT. So we're, entrenched in a lot of those big companies. And we sell A-branded products as well as we sell our own branded products. Our private label products are called Master Brand. So we have about 400 SKUs, my brother and I, primarily him more than me. I don't want to take all the credit here, but he's the one who designs and develops the different products that we have. And we have a line of speakers, equipment racks, TV mounts, projector mounts, video distribution, bulk wire, CCTV. There's just a lot of things that installers would use every day. We have our own brand that we've developed over the years, and it's been very successful. A lot of distributors try to build their own brands and they fail miserably. It's really helped our business, and it's also helped the dealers because it's high margin and you can't shop it on the internet. But we've done very, very well with it, and we just added a new CCTV line this past couple of months. But we're knocking on the door, $35 million a year with a branded product. It's pretty strong.
Yeah, it doesn't suck.
No.
Do you sell water alarms though? That's what Gary's wondering.
Well, we
feels like he needs
do
one.
sell water sensors. Water sensors have been out a long time, Gary, just so you know. I can sell you some if you need some.
I literally had no clue. The thought that came to my mind was, didn't DEI back in the day have like a little rain sensor that you could wire in to trigger your windshield wipers?
That's
so it
car world.
automatically
See,
turned
in
them
the
on?
home world,
Yeah,
if you have, and I'm sure you guys have had this happen, where you have a water line to a sink or a water line to a toilet or something bust. Well, let me tell you, if you're not home, your house is going to flood. Water sensors, they are as sensitive as my kids just taking a bath and getting too much water on the floor. It just went off when we were on just now. So certainly worth having. So I'll help you out with that, Gary, if you need some help.
I appreciate that. I'm going to need as soon as I am done running a business, I think I need to focus on my house and maybe updating the electronics.
Absolutely. Listen, you're going to get to the point to where you're going to be looking for that release. And that's what I do. My day-to-day is vastly different than what it used to be. I'm a corporate kind of guy. I got 165 employees, 9 locations. Once the weekend comes, I'm ready to go in my shop and cut some wood.
Yeah, I was when I left Alpine and went to work for the display company, I really enjoyed working on cars because it's not what I had to do every day. It became very enjoyable. And then when I went back to working on cars, now that's the last thing I want to do on my day off is build something or
I can see that.
Fix a car.
For me, that's what I think about at night is, what am I, and I've got all my projects in my head. I've got, a car that I haven't got anything in that I want to do a system in. I got all these guys saying, hey, let me build your car for you. I'm like, no. I keep thinking, okay. And I bought all the gear for it. But I just, the van came first and that project took a little longer. I've already started collecting parts and pieces for the Blazer, believe it or not, which is a whole nother conversation. And then I have another car that I want to do some work on, but I don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah. So here's a good question that I jotted down. if logistics were not an issue, meaning no family time is interrupted, you can just go back in time, knowing what you know now, and you could work on any car, and you can assemble any team, or it could just be you. What would the car be, and who would you work with?
I've built a lot of relationships along the way, but they were mainly competitive relationships. They weren't really relationships that I think someone would come help me do something necessarily. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm that easy of a guy to work with. But regardless, I don't know what vehicle, if I went back in time,
No, you're building it today.
I'm building it today.
But yeah, you're building it today, but there's the logistics are out of it. So you don't have to worry about family, and you have all this other CEO stuff to do. I
don't think I would change what I did. I would still build the same thing that I built. The difference would be is it would certainly look different, and it would definitely be different because of what I know today. But I still think the same core vehicle and the core concepts, I still think I would do the same thing.
No, I'm not saying go back in time and change stuff. I'm saying you right now, right? Clean slate, you don't have to worry about anything. If you could build one car right now today and you can assemble any team you wanted to, what would you do?
I think I would want to build
any car.
The world's baddest, completely baddest electric car to blow all these other guys away. That's what I would do. And I would get all my 12.
Give me a car.
Think
Tesla?
about it.
Or is it from scratch?
I'm talking a car from scratch that there's no facet that no one could get close to. And I would get all the baddest 12-volt guys in the country. And just think about that think tank, designing and coming up with a car that, you put all the cars on the wall that are available today and what they have and what they do. And think about every facet of, okay, Tesla, this is what it does good. Here's what we're going to do better. Here's what it does bad. Here's what we're going to improve. That's what I would want to do today, because that would make you a lot of money. Back then, I was doing all that work. I don't think I made any money. I just had fun. So that's what I would do if I could do something today and go back. That would be my focus.
I will say electric cars are amazing to work on nowadays because it's basically the equivalent of having all of your equipment bench tested with power supplies, right? You don't have to worry about floor noise. You don't have to worry about alternator. You don't worry about nothing. You have an endless supply of power. And at the same point, you don't have to combat engine noise, right? Which is funny because all Tesla consumers, they basically complain that the road noise is unbearable because that's all they're focused on now, because they're not listening to the engine noise. So they're only hearing the ambient road noise. It's quite funny.
Now that's probably the largest or the biggest challenge was all those things you mentioned. Engine noise, just noise in general. Mm-hmm. Radiated noise from ignitions. Oh my gosh.
Right.
I can tell you the time I spent on that.
Distributors, yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So I have two questions, Mark. One is, which is better, having fun or making money?
Well, I have maybe a little bit different philosophy, but if you're not having fun, then I don't really care about making money. I have always, I got lucky. I've always kind of done what I like to do. It wasn't about making money. And I worked day and night, weekends, sometimes 3 to 4 days in a row. And it wasn't about making money. It's just doing what I enjoy doing. Today, work is more like work, but I still enjoy it because it's still audio related. I've built my own teams, which makes it, fun. But, man, if you can't enjoy it, I just don't see you really driving it and pushing it and really, becoming, if not the best, one of the best at what you do. It's just impossible if you don't like doing it.
Can you tell us what's in your garage? What all is in the garage?
Well, I got my van. You guys know I got my van. I got my van back, and let me tell you, it's fun driving that thing. I never drove it when I built it back 30 years ago, but now I drive it to the gym. I go to the grocery store. I mean, people look at you like, wow, what is that weird looking thing? It is a little bizarre looking. My stepson he says it looks like a McDonald's Happy Meal because of the colors. Yeah, he sees some grimace. But I have my non-interesting vehicle. I have a truck, Ford truck. Got to have that, right? And then I have an Aventador SVJ. And I have a Rolls Royce Ghost. And I got an STO on order, waiting for it. Won't be until next year. Well, actually, into this year. But I've had pretty much the gamut. I've had several Ferraris, and I sold all those. I didn't really. They were fun, but they were boring in some respect to me. The Lamborghini is a lot more visceral, a lot more exciting. It's definitely clunkier. It's not as forgiving. It doesn't ride that great, but there's nothing better looking. Nothing better looking.
Now, how's the audio in those cars from the factory?
So
that's the question.
The audio in Ferraris is, kind of, I guess, mainstream. It's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. In the Aventador, it's pretty comparable to vehicles back in the 70s, is what I would say.
It's terrible.
It is the worst. I can't honestly believe how bad the audio is in that car. I don't even turn the system on. And that's the other vehicle I wanted to build because it's so bad. It's just, even the Apple CarPlay is terrible. I don't know of any part of the electronics from a audio perspective it's really dreadful.
Yeah.
Dreadful.
And SVJ is the full carbon
Yes.
door, carbon floor. Yeah, it's a rattle trap echo.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, the car
resonance
is, man, it's super solid. It is a little stiff, but I mean, I changed the springs on it and it rides pretty good. It's not bad. I mean, it doesn't rattle or anything, but like that. It's not like a Countach. Those things were terrible.
Oh, wait till you put some power behind those 6s or 8s.
Yeah. I mean, the doors are, they're like, they're, solid, just carbon, but it's super lightweight.
So light. The whole door panel weighs like, I want to say maybe a pound.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
It's a really fun car. I only drive it every once in a while because my back hurts after I drive it for about 10 minutes. It's so uncomfortable. But it's not about that, right? It's really about, to me, I just like to open my garage and look at my car and just close the garage. That's good enough for me. I don't even really care about driving them.
That's fun.
Honestly. It's not that important. I don't really even like driving that much, to be honest with you. It has to be a beautiful day, specific time, and nothing in my head that it's going to, make the experience not enjoyable.
So what do you enjoy driving the most?
It's hard to say. Depends on what day it is. But my wife has an Escalade. I like driving that thing. It's comfortable. Audio's not too bad. It's big, and it's got new technology, and the technology is nice. It's hard to enjoy a car unless it's just raw. If the electronics are really subpar. But the SVJ, I enjoy driving that car more than anything, just when it's about driving. And I'm not a race car driver. I'll putt, let me tell you, I'm not a fast car driver. I just, to drive it, it's a really enjoyable car to drive.
You said you had some gear picked out for it or have it already for that? What, I'm interested to hear. What'd you have for a system?
A Moscone processor. I haven't got amps yet. And then I've got, I can't really see because it's dark, but I got some, Focal, some of the Utopia 8s, and some beryllium tweeters.
Yeah.
That's it so far. I haven't really figured out, the integration side of it yet. Not a lot of people have a lot of knowledge on those cars for some reason. And amplifier, I want to build a system to where you don't see anything. I want it to look stock. Jury's still out if I'm going to put a sub someplace. and it would have to be to where you can't see it.
Passenger footwell.
Yeah, passenger footwell.
Utopia M10 passenger footwell.
Yeah.
Utopia M10 is legit.
Oh, is it?
It does very well in a little bit of airspace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really
I have
gone
some
that far
pictures
yet.
I can send
would
you.
probably, do the top end first, and then experiment with how a sub sounds. It's funny. I'm going to say something that you're not going to believe, but in some respect, not in a car so much, but at home, I'm not a fan of subwoofers because it kind of muddies up the mid range to me. But it has to be the right subwoofer before I'm going to want to do that. Maybe as I'm getting old, it's probably what it is.
215s in the fireplace.
Well, 18s, yeah. But that's
18s,
that's
sorry,
different.
sorry.
This is like Fukuda nightclub, right? Because we have a lot of parties here. And I got 4 18s out in my patio bar. It's pretty cool.
I need pictures after this. I need just random pictures on your.
I think on my Instagram I have pictures of my bar. Maybe I don't. I need to post some, but I think I have pictures on my Instagram of my fireplace. I know I do. You got to scroll in a little bit, but I do have pictures of the fireplace. And if I don't have of the bar, well, that'll be. Oh, I do have some of the bar in process. Yeah. There's some picture. I got a picture of Maltic Lansing A5s with 18-inch JBL subs that I don't have anymore. But yeah, I have some pictures you guys can look at.
All right.
Are we okay to give you your Instagram up?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a public Instagram. I really have it for people mainly in the 12-volt world to kind of follow me, and I don't really have that much posted. But whenever the Blazer starts, I'm going to start that up again.
What's your name on there?
It's
For everyone
Benzo.
listening.
Benzo V10.
Benzo V10.
Benzo V10.
Yep, and we'll put a link on our pages to it.
Yeah, that's what it's for. It's really for the 12-volt world. I don't really do a lot of social media. I did a little bit when I was doing pieces and parts on the van. And when I start working on the Blazer and go get that thing out of storage, then I'm going to start posting some stuff kind of on the process of that rebuild. That's going to be lengthy, 2-3 years at least.
Are you going to do that at the house or?
Yeah, I'll just move the van. I have another garage here, and then I'll just put it in my main garage where my CNC is and take it all apart and figure out what I have. I mean, it doesn't run, so the mechanics are really the first thing I got to work through is getting that thing to move and run. And then once all that's done and then get all the exterior engine compartment, all that cleaned up, then it's just take everything out of the inside, see what I got to work with, see what works, see what doesn't work. But there were so many changes in that truck. The last year that I competed, all the cool stuff I took out. All the 1000s, all the security system in the back, all the motorization. I took all that out to focus nothing but on SPL. So right now there's 32 M500 custom built amplifiers in the back. There's a preamp distribution panel on one side under the wing, and on the other side there is a diagnostic center that I would use to. Well, I built it so I could, if I ran through, hit a note, it would tell me all the peak holes of the amplifiers. So I could see if I had any amplifiers that were not putting out the same amount of voltage. It would tell me the impedance of the drivers, temperature of the drivers. It would tell me the input voltage, strength on all the amplifiers. All those different things that you would want to know as an SPL competitor, right? So when you make a shot, it's like having a fluke scope. It holds everything, all that information in a fraction of a second. So you would know where everything is to see, because it's like chasing ghosts when you have 32 amps and 16 woofers and preamp distribution signal and all this nonsense. It gets to where you if you're doing a dB less, you're like, okay, all the woofers are good, the amps are good. What's the problem? Is the mic bad? Is it, it's really, really challenging to be an SPL competitor and not have a handle on those dynamics. And that's early on, I realized I got to have that. So we built, the engineer and myself built that diagnostic panel. So all that's got to come out so I can put it, circa 92 with the 1000s in the sides with all the cool wiring and acrylic in the back with a motorized, opening thing and all the alarm system, the VSE, which is impossible to find. I'm finding pieces and parts, but that's all going to be put back.
It's hard enough to find ones that worked back then.
It worked great back then. It's just I'm going to put a full VSE with all the functions. I have the diagram, and I'm going to get it all back working again. That's my goal. All original stuff. I know that's crazy. My brother's like, "Why would you want to do that?" Like, I don't know. It's just what I want to do. So I found EL lighting because I had originally in various places I had EL lighting. I had time delay that we built in it for all the subs back then, which nobody really knew about, which I still have that. But that was mainly for SPL, which makes sense, right?
Did the enclosure stay the same from the dual purpose, the SQ, SPL?
No, it was internally motorized. It would change volumes. So we ran a specific amount of DC voltage to lock up all the drivers, except for 2. So only 2 drivers worked, but the rest of them didn't act as passives, if that makes sense.
Right.
And the chamber was motorized to where it would change the volume, because that box was relatively big. For 2 drivers, it's too big. So it would motorize and change the internal volume.
Was that common chamber then?
No, it was separated in the middle, but it had, we used to call it Varavent ports between the sides to equalize the pressure. Because regardless of how perfect you build a box left and right, it is difficult if there's any variance for the output to be the same. So we always vented the chambers together with vents had acoustic dampening between them.
And the acrylic, I don't know if we'd call them diffuser panels, was that always there, or was that added as you
on the subwoofers
found the need?
So right now it's not acrylic, it's MDF. In the beginning, they were 1/2-inch acrylic, and that was original, and that's what I want to put back is the original 1/2-inch acrylic diffuser or separators, right? That's going to be a challenge to build that. But now it's 1/2-inch MDF because I had to extend them out a little bit further for SPL. So everything changed when the SPL started to become a focus. The windshield came out, and it's 3/4-inch Lexan with a metal brace going to that, which was the first of its kind. And I'm glad I did it because it did what it did and it won the contest. But I'm kind of sad that I did it because I got to rebuild all of it, put it back the way it was.
Are you going to try to get you going back to original glass?
Yeah, I want to go. I'm going to take that out, go back to original glass, and then I'm really wrestling with myself as far as the setup internally, because I had multiple speaker setups for the high end, ranging from Focal to Dyne Audio to Eton to Cios. I mean, there's just so many. So I'm trying to figure out, a line in the sand of, okay, here's where I'm going to end up and here's what I'm putting in it. The amplifiers pretty much stayed the same throughout the sound quality competing was always the 1000s. The higher end amps were Rockford, it was a 1000, and then I changed them to 2 Alpine 3555s. That's what I ran the last couple years that I won. Mainly the IASCA events is what I was focused on. Those Alpine amps and Alpine processor. I don't remember the numbers. I could look at them, but the electronic EQ and the electronic crossover, it's all Alpine.
How many times did that thing go to CES?
I think it was in a booth 4 times. The Blazer was. The first year was a 91 for VSC. That was the first time most people saw it, was 1991 in the VSC booth when VSC was still around.
Let's say I want to say my first CES was probably January of '93, and I remember seeing
Rockford.
it. I don't remember what booth it was in, but I just remember
It was
it was Rockford.
in the Rockford booth with another vehicle I built. Was I don't remember the year, but it was a blue Mercedes, and it had dual audiophile 12s with a acrylic curved enclosure with a Diamond RF sandblasted on the back of the curved part. I wish I had that car. That car was sweet.
So let me ask you this. Within your entire career, right, looking at car audio, what's the most impressed that you've seen fabrication-wise somebody else build, where you looked at it and you're like, Jesus Christ, that's fucking sick? And then the same thing goes for anything outside of cars. So home construction could be Vegas, could be anywhere. Anything that you've seen in person, construction built, that you've looked at and been like, wow, that's absolutely amazing.
It depended on time, because I think when I saw Tom Fichter's 4Runner for the first time, my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God. And this was 1987. Mm-hmm. So when I saw that then, I was like, this is like the epitome of car stereo. I've never seen anything come close to that. And I think over the years, I've came to that same opinion. There was a vehicle, I'm trying to think of what one it was, that the guys at RTTI, before I was there, was building. Mark Lowe was director there, which I think Mark is, if not one of the most creative car audio fabricators ever. And still today, I feel that, he still has that talent. It's just a natural talent. The guy could just think of things way outside of anyone else. But vehicles that he was building were kind of in that realm as well. And I was a big competitor in Iasca in my last, years of competing. And, some of the things that I saw underneath that was done in Richard Clark's car, some of the motorization that he did for the head unit was pretty inspiring, to say the least. Whenever, you look at something like that was built in the 90s, that was using servo control and linear rails and things like that. It's pretty cool to see that kind of stuff as well. So I think, along the way, there's been a lot of really cool looking vehicles that are like, wow. Later on, whenever I was at Rockford, I think, we were on the cutting edge as Rockford fabricators building cars. But listen, you gotta take your hat off to Steve Brown and the Alpine boys for the cars they were building back in the day, because it wasn't that they were just well built. They were just so different, and it was just so different than the typical install. And I think the year that we built the Z, I don't remember if it was a blue car that the Alpine guys built, and it was like, wow. It's just a different era. I think that's what really started with a lot of the fiberglass and the molding and, the custom painting. It was just a new era when I saw vehicles that Steve built. And it's funny because I was friends with Steve and Chris Yato back in the day, and I actually went out to Alpine and spent a couple of days with those guys in the shop building stuff. And I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I remember being there and hanging out with those guys. I don't remember what car it was. But I think, the most awe-inspiring was a lot of those cars that Steve was building. I was like, wow, that's crazy. And I was kind of on my way out at that point. So it was like, I was handing off the baton, let somebody else do this deal, right?
Did you help build that blue car, Gary?
No, that predates me.
How many years?
It was
a few.
Yeah, blue car is probably Civic, which would have been
just trying to put some perspective to the listeners.
102-ish. 102-ish.
I think it was
Brownies,
maybe
BMW,
03.
Civic. Yeah, Civic, and then Civic was RSX. Sorry, Brownie's car, Brownie's BMW, the RSX, then the Civic. So it might have been the RSX or Civic. Then after that was when Yato left and Vu came in, and they did Mini Cooper and the X5. And then I came in 06, I think. So right around that timeline.
All right. So you're at your house or you're listening to a home system, car system. What's the first 2 tracks that you're playing? First 2 tracks.
Let's see. I think my first track would be Samantha James, Rain. Because of I'm a female voice kind of guy. I don't know if you know Samantha James. If you haven't, you need to get Samantha James, Rain. It's pretty amazing.
We have a playlist that we keep tally on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So we generally ask each guest what's their favorite 1 or 2 demo tracks, and then we compile a list on Spotify for all the listeners to use that playlist as a demo track list.
And it's my fault that list has not been updated.
Gary's in charge of that.
I will catch up.
Yeah, I think, at this point that if I'm listening to review or demo or evaluate what I'm listening to, that would be one of the tracks that I listen to for sure. The other would be anything. I wouldn't say anything, but when you're a competitor, you have to love Claire Marlowe, and you get to love Claire Marlowe, Sheffield Labs artist, with some of the things she did, because that was a lot of the tracks they used in Iasca for the competing side of it, the sound quality side. And when you're competing, I used to have a demo system or a reference system. What was it? Focal speakers and Mac equipment. And I would sit in that room for hours listening to that Iasca disc, and then I would go listen to my vehicle and pick apart what things weren't really translating the same. So anything Claire Marlowe, Samantha James, those are my 2.
We'll add them to it.
I don't know if you guys have ever heard those 2, but
the Sheffield stuff for sure. But Samantha James, as soon as we're done here, I'm pulling it up.
It's good.
So what about the future? You're going to rebuild the Blazer.
You're going
to put
the Blazer I'm struggling with.
SVJ.
The Blazer is a tough one because it needs so many things to get back where I want it to be. If I didn't touch it and I'd competed with it and just put it away and didn't change it over the years, left it like it was in 92-ish when I won all the, Iasca, USAC, Thunder Wheels, all the different events with that thing. But, had to keep doing it and mess it up. So it's going to be a challenge. It's been in storage since 1996. So that's a long time. It's not in good shape. The crazy thing, I lost the bumper. I mean, how do you lose a bumper? I lost the front bumper. It's like gone. But I just bought another one on eBay, believe it or not, for $149. I was pretty excited. So that was kind of the first, part to start the initial kickoff of the rebuild was my bumper that I lost. So I got it. And then I've spent, at night I look online to find specific distribution blocks, Bussman blocks that I used in it. I used specific wire braid, EL lighting, which I found some EL lighting that is very similar to the color, if not exactly the same aqua kind of green color that I used. VSC stuff, I've gotten a lot of help from the 12-volt community with that. I just had a guy give me a Quantum Brain, 2 10 function boxes and 3 AWACS modules, a receiver, and 2 Quantum remotes. I have another guy sending me some more VSC stuff that he had. I bought the little fuse, 5-blade fuse hole. They're blade fuse holders, but they hold 5 each. There was a specific holder. I found those in England. I just ordered those. The LEDs, I'm having a challenge. The latching relays, I'm having a challenge. So I'm trying to find exact replica pieces or parts that I use. Not easy to find. But I am making headway, and I am finding parts. It's really difficult to find vintage Eton 4-inch, which I had, or vintage Dyne Audio 6.5-inch before the stuff that they have now. But I've got the 1000s. I've got all the 1000s. I just found.
Do you have the ones out of the car?
2 of them
out of the
are.
Blazer
So the
originally?
plan is 2 of them are original. 2 of them are not, but they're, almost brand new condition. I'm working a deal to trade these really nice 1000s for my original. One's in...
Oh, wow. You know where they are.
One's in South Africa and one is in Germany. So I'm working a deal to see if I can get my original 4 back in the truck. All the woofers are original, still working condition, as it was the last time I set the last world record at USAC finals in 1995. I think the most challenging part is going to be the speakers for the doors. The Alpine amplifiers, the 3555s, I found 2, pristine condition. Michael Schultz, you guys probably know him with the old school audio repair stuff that he does. Oscar, yeah. He's found me. He finds me pieces and parts. He's really good at. He's got all the connection because he's a big Rockford collector. So he's got a line on 2 of those amplifiers. But it's not easy finding like the laminate. I used a specific laminate that had a grid pattern in it that was behind all the fuse distribution, the speaker wire distribution. They don't make that anymore, so I'm going to have to probably make it out of laminate and just laser etch, the gray lines in it. So there's going to be a lot, even the tailgate piece, the plastic factory tailgate piece, I can't find. Not new, not used. Oh, wow. I cannot find that plastic tailgate piece. So I might have to make one. So it's just, the older these vehicles get, just like the van, it's a challenge. Especially
seems like it would be a bigger challenge to find your older equipment. Like, how do you even find your old stuff that you had? That's like, are you tracking serial number? Like, did you write down the serial numbers and then like, how does that happen?
I get people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I still got your 1000 from back in the day when you sold it to so and so, and they sold it to me." I'm like, okay.
So the story went down in time.
So the one that's in South Africa, the distributor there, Brett Farquharson, which is the Rockford distributor there, I remember giving one of the 1000s to him, and he has it in his museum in South Africa. So that one's easy. Okay. But you got to realize that I had 8 1000s in the truck at one time. I don't know if you guys know that. Yeah, there were 4 that you could see, and as I wanted to do more SPL, there was 4 inside the enclosure that you didn't see. Mm-hmm. I don't really consider those the originals because the ones on the outside had yellow Rockford Fosgate, and the sides were cut out, and there wasn't wires; it was bus bars directly from the PC board to the bus bar distribution. They were different. So those are the ones that I want back. Not easy to find. Not easy to get. Maybe he'll take a car.
I don't think you're trading the SVJ for that, though.
Can't do that.
Nah, not that important.
My last question for you is, throughout your whole career and looking back at it, I know your dad had a huge say in your influence, but who are some of the industry exclusive influences that kind of made you who you are today?
I think industry wide, certainly Mark Lowe would be one. Brian Schmidt. I think earlier on would be Tom Fichter and what he did, and All Pro Audio back in the early days, because they were really big in the competing scene. Wayne Harris was another one that was, 1985 Thunder on Wheels champion. I believe it was 85 with his Eruption. I think it was a maroon Cutlass, 75 Cutlass or something like that. Those were the early on kind of guys. And then later on in my career, it was guys like Schmitty and Lowe and, Richard Clark and some of the guys at Speaker Works in California that originally built Harry Kimura's car, Richard Clark's car. Those were big influences back in the day for me, because they were doing things. I mean, the East Coast, West Coast, and even when me being in Central, things were done vastly different. I mean, I was a wall of woofers, and over there they were, it was a different world. So when I went over there, they were looking at me like I was an alien. So it was definitely a different type of mindset. But as the competing continued, then and everyone's trying to conform to one set of rules, because in the early days it was Thunder on Wheels, CAN, IASCA, USAC, Thunder on Wheels. I mean, there's so many, and you were either a IASCA guy, you were a Thunder Wheels guy. You kind of picked and choose based on your car design and build. But at the end of the day, it kind of all morphed into IASCA and USAC is really what survived. And you're either going to build a car for one of those two. And at one point in time, IASCA and USAC were similar in the judging for the sound quality side and the installation side. The SPL was still more focused on at USAC. But IASCA started having, kind of an extra little show, if you will, for the SPL side too, because they knew that's what brought attention to the sport. So that, I mean, the list goes on. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I used to kind of chase, if you will, or get ideas from. Holly Mongol. I don't know if you guys remember him from Canada. Another big competitor, did some really cool stuff. The guys at JL, but it was kind of like precursor JL, Manville Smith and those guys, some of the cars they were building. The guys, one of the vehicles, it was a guy named Tommy, I don't remember his last name, had a van that had like a spaceship that came out of the back, and the amps all opened up like a flower. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
I don't
that
remember that.
Oh yeah.
Matt may not have been born yet.
I think Lucio Proni, the guy that owns JL, is one of the instrumental fabricators in that system. So this was early before, JL really took off. It was him and Manville were building a lot of these cars. They were very influential on kind of the things that I did as well. I'd have to really think about, because it's been so long since I've even thought about these guys. Is it crazy?
I feel like with every guest that we have like Mark on, we can start filling in like this flow chart of car audio, because we've had Manville on, we've had Brownie on, we've had so many different people on that we're all getting each perspective of where they grew up in the States about car audio, so we can fill in this entire story and bring it all to a
probably could. Yeah, I was probably on the earlier side of it, because car audio competition started in Texas with Thunder on Wheels, George Reed and the Rockford rep, and his focus to build Rockford. That's really what it was for. And it really expanded very quickly from that. And we're talking, early 80s is where that happened.
Yeah. I think that most of the references we've had to that era either came from Nick Wingate or came from Manville.
Yeah, I was part of that big time. Thunder on Wheels, I was, entrenched in that. And that's, that I was, their champion for so many years. Well, I was the last champion, and they went away.
And known as the guy who was always very secretive.
That's me.
Is the rumor.
Absolutely.
He wouldn't show anybody anything.
That was me. I always got made fun of and got called pretty mean names, which didn't really bother me too much. But, I looked at it like, I would go to these shows and I wouldn't even really want to be in the public. I would let my guys bring my car, set it up in a booth, because it normally was in some kind of booth of some sort. And because if I was there, oh my God, I would just get barraged and people just talking smack and, we're going to beat you this and this is that. And, it was just a little bit too much. It got to be crazy. But I looked at it as, a competition for what it was. And when you go to compete and you're in kind of an industry like we were, that you're creating things from scratch, or you're creating things that, are new, and you knew they were new because the sport wasn't that old. You don't want people to know what you're doing. You don't want to just show everybody the hard work and time and effort and money that you put into something. And that's how I looked at it. So I went to a show. I was there to do one thing and one thing only. I was there to win, and win in every facet, from sound quality, install to SPL. And that's the only reason I went. I didn't go there to make friends. I didn't go there to talk to people. I didn't go there to see other people's cars. I went there to win. And if I wasn't doing that, then I don't think that I would have done what I did. But, in the early stage of this conversation, I was obsessed. I was obsessed with what I was doing. I was very focused, and I had a goal, and that's what I was going to do. Yeah, I got ridiculed a little bit because I didn't let people see my car or didn't really just open it up. But I'm a competitor, and, a true competitor is there to do one thing and one thing only, not to make friends and show everybody how great they are, And that's how I've always been.
If you're not first, you're last.
Exactly. I did not like getting even someone getting close to me, so made me a little nervous. But that was my focus. So yeah, things are different now. I'll tell you whatever you need to know now. What do you want to know?
Yeah, I'm supposed to ask you about Cat Whiskers.
Cat Whisker is my buddy that we go a long way back. He works at Rockford now. Has been at Rockford a long time. But Cat Whisker, him and Schmitty built their van to compete with me, and I actually competed against Schmitty and Greg Cobb's Cat Whisker, aka Cat Whisker. My last year, I think it was in '95, and I remember. You can ask Brian. Yeah, you got to ask Brian the story, because it was in Iasca, and I had my Blazer outside, and they had their van outside. And so I'm like being, curious, and I'm like, hey, Brian, because I knew who they were. So show me what you got. Show me your van. And so they're all proud, him and Greg, they open up the van, they're showing me everything. I'm like, wow, yeah, that's cool. And so Greg and Brian are like, okay, so you're going to show me yours? I'm like, not today. So I never showed it to them. And it's kind of a running joke that, they showed me theirs, but I didn't show them mine. And they were really pissed off that I didn't show them my vehicle, but I didn't. And then later on, I beat them at that show. And then USAC, which was the final event that I went to, they were there too. They had some issues there. Didn't do that well. But I won that show and set a world record with that show too. But it's always kind of a running joke that I did that to them. My buddy Cat Whisker.
And how did he get the name Cat Whiskers? How did he get the nickname Cat
after
Whisker?
The fact, I actually went there and was helping them on their van. And Greg was talking to me, and he said something about a cat whisker. And I'm like, what the heck is a cat whisker? And he goes, the little lead things that go from the terminals to the woofer cone. And I'm like, oh, that's a cat whisker. So that's how he got the nickname Cat Whisker. So he's had that nickname
tinsel
ever
leads
since.
Are now called Cat Whiskers.
Never learned that.
I love it. And now I have a new name to call Greg Cobbs next time I see him.
That's it.
This was fun. This was
it.
good.
Yeah, I think.
You see how easy that was?
This is really good.
You just sit down. It's 2 hours have already elapsed. You probably haven't even looked at the time. 2 hours.
Skip dinner to have
have
conversation.
There's so much. We kind of glossed over. There's a lot of detail in all of that, right? But like I said, I've never really sat down and had a conversation, and I don't think anyone's really asking me pointed questions to kind of direct me down a path. But when I think about where all this started, where kind of traveled and what I did, it all makes sense. I think that if I would have stayed in this business, I think if technology was a little bit more advanced, and CNCs and lasers and all that would have been more prevalent in my day, I probably would still be in it. Probably would maybe have a TV show or something. I always thought that maybe. But I think just the way things worked out, I wouldn't say I'm going to complain, because I like where I'm at and what I'm doing. But I certainly, miss 12 volt, miss the people. I always say, my wife always says, yeah, you don't have any friends. I said, yeah, I got friends, but they're in the 12-volt world because I can relate, I can talk and you guys understand what I'm saying. Anywhere else, it's a little challenging. And people look at me like, yeah, that guy's a little esoteric. He's kind of a little weird duck,
Didn't the expo feel like a fun high school reunion?
It was for me. A lot of people I haven't seen in many, many years, but it did seem, for me, it was just like that. A lot of old school guys that I haven't seen, and a lot of iconic industry guys were there as well, which was really good to see.
Mm-hmm. It was fun.
It was fun.
Yep.
I can't wait to the next one. I've got some cool stuff coming.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I got a new tool that I'm
excited.
working on. Hopefully I'll have it done. I've been working on it. Well, I kind of stopped doing it and then I picked it back up, but I designed it 11 years ago. And then I started doing...
Is it EL related?
It is not EL related, but it will be fabrication related. How about that?
Okay.
It's something that
I'm listening.
We definitely need. Not everyone has a CNC. So it will certainly help guys without a CNC. Actually, help guys with CNC. But it's something similar to my square, the Fukuda square thing. But it does circles.
I'm so intrigued to see how this works.
Super accurate, super easy, super repetitive. And hopefully it's not going to be, expensive. Working on that piece. Yes, sir.
Very
That'd be very useful. CNC, laser or not, if you can just quickly make a circle, a size, and then use that as a template.
Well, you can make you can make a circle
device,
or you can make a hole, either or, which is different, right? A circle and a hole are not all the same, depending on what you want. It's a male or female shape, so we'll do both.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Huh.
Yeah. So 11 years developing this thing. Let me tell you, it's about time. It's good that I'm not trying to make a living off of this stuff. I'd be like on the corner of the road begging for money. For sure.
just there to better the industry.
Listen, I may make a couple bucks here and there, but it's just something that I did that I want to finish, right? See, baby's crying again. See, all the viewers need to know that is the most important. That's what happens when you get to be an old guy like me with a bunch of little kids. No, but I think it's just the circle deal is something that, it was more of a mechanical device, and I wanted to finish that thing, and I designed it, built prototypes, and I just never could get it like I wanted it. So I just kind of put it on the shelf for a little bit, and obviously a lot of things came up that I had to focus on. But now I think the expo, when I went there, I saw all the things that are happening. I saw the people, and I was thinking, I need to pick that back up and next year unveil that piece. Mm-hmm. Just do a short training on how to use it. But I think that would be very well received, and it's the perfect venue for that. Yeah. So that's why I said, I got to pick it back up. So I started working on it again. But don't expect a blazer. That's an impossible feat.
I don't want to say impossible.
Just for me by myself,
very unlikely.
It's impossible. Trust me. It's going to take me probably 8 months, maybe longer, just to get the parts. Maybe a year just to get the parts.
Well, I will say, seeing the Astro van, it's almost like Jurassic Park, right? So it's just so ahead of its time, and to see it 30 years later in the same condition. And I was talking with Gary just about the acrylic in the back, and just, I don't know if I've ever seen such a polished, clear piece of acrylic in my life. I'll pull the paper off acrylic that I have in my shop right now, and it won't be as clear as what I saw in the back of that Astro van. So, you have to be very proud in the fact that you created a Jurassic Park of our industry, right? You can watch Jurassic Park today, and it still holds up 30 years later in time to a lot of the stuff that you're seeing digitally, right? But in this case, analog, and what you're seeing with computerized CAD and all that kind of stuff. And it's just really well executed, and again, it stands the test of time, and it just shows how much effort, pride, and everything that you've taken into what you've done with your career and your life. And it's definitely come out within this podcast to see how much passion and drive that you have. And it's just really well appreciated because, it's created and paved the path for people like me who, obviously I wasn't there at that point in your career to witness what you were doing, but I can respect it today in time, looking back at your career and seeing what you built 30 years ago and how great it's held up in that amount of time. So thank you very much for all of that.
No, listen, I appreciate that. And you don't think about it when you're doing it, right? It's just
of course
something
not,
you're doing. But, that was kind of the mindset, even back then was, every portion of what I did had to be better than anything else that I've ever seen. Now there could be something else I haven't seen, but what I did know in my mind, every piece had to be better. And I remember very vividly polishing that acrylic, every piece of that acrylic, because I repolished that acrylic when I took it apart 6 months ago, my brother and I. And it was funny because I have a picture of my brother and I polishing the acrylic 30 years ago. And it's a picture of him and me. And then I have a picture of us now polishing that same acrylic in my driveway. And it's funny. Awesome. He's like, damn, I was 16 years old when I was doing this the first time. I'm 44 now, or 45 now, and I'm doing it again. He was making fun of me because I made him do that back then. But, I remember polishing that. I remember doing that. And I went to the lengths to understand what is the clearest, most pristine edge finish you could possibly get. And back in 1993, it was called a museum edge quality. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. And that's what I sought for, was I wanted a museum edge quality on every piece of acrylic that I cut, which took a long time, took a lot of sanding. And it's, double the work that most people would do on acrylic. But I redid that again.
More than double the work.
So, listen.
More than double the work.
The van was something that I'm very pleased and proud to still have. I'm very pleased that it's in the condition it is now because I can look at it and smile. And I actually can drive it, like I said, and enjoy it a little bit. And it's funny because, all that stuff in that van, you drive it, there's no squeaks, there's no rattles. It sounds good. It drives pretty good. It's really enjoyable for being such an old vehicle. And I view that as an iconic vehicle for what it was. But I think, my focus, I really want to rebuild this Blazer because of one reason and one reason only, is that, and you guys know this, that still today, it's the only vehicle to win a Triple Crown 2 years in a row and hold the world record. There's no vehicle that'll ever do that again. And I think that's why it's so important for me to bring that back to what it was when it was doing it, in the condition that it was doing it. That's what I want to do, and bring that back, because there will never be a vehicle like that again, ever. So I think that's probably one of the most important aspects of its career, but it's also, I think, in the audio world, something that people will never see, that when they see that, they'll go, oh, wow, that's the vehicle that did that. There is no other. That is it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's hard to say that there was only one of anything in the car stereo world or the 12-volt world like that, but that certainly is one of them. Mm-hmm. So big motivation for me. It's just going to take a while.
I'm sure you can find some help.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. You know how it is when you actually start rubbing on something, people kind of run away.
Well, we're definitely excited for it. For sure, for me, that's, like I said, that's probably the most iconic thing that I remember sticking with me. Like, I was into custom cars in those years, and the bright yellow paint, slammed with the cool wheels, like that truck literally just had everything you would ever want in a custom car, and it really burns an image in your head. That's
well,
for sure.
I'm excited to bring it back at some point, and hopefully Brian will still have his show, and we could unveil it at one of those shows. That'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
You got anything else, Gary?
I think that's a pretty darn good run right there. I think we call it, and I'm sure that at some point we will come up with more questions and want to have you back on in the future, and maybe get an update on the Blazer, whether that's 6 months or a year from now. But
absolutely,
sure.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. Again, this is a passion. It is my hobby, but I think more than a hobby, it's my passion. It's something that, I want my kids to be able to look at and go, oh, wow, what is that? Because now, my daughter, she looked at it and goes, what is this old junky, dusty thing? But I want it to be what it was, so my kids, when they grow up, they can understand, and see what it was really like back in the day.
I will say she was super hyped to see herself on the big screen at the expo.
Oh, yeah.
She was so hyped.
Yeah, I don't think you got to see that.
I don't think you got
to see that when you were on stage.
She just kept saying
that. Sitting on the side
we were
next
at the ARC audio booth, and I was standing there with Brian, and she was standing right there, and she's like, "That's me, that's my daddy." And she just kept saying that the whole time. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, she's going to be the one that's going to be right next to me with all this stuff. I got 3 sons, and they don't really care about any of it. She's the one's outside helping me wash my cars and in my shop. It's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I know that's probably one of the most valuable things you have is your time, and we appreciate you spending
it, guys.
With us. And
hopefully,
sure we're gonna get
you guys got a lot out of this, and I'm sure that just me sitting here thinking about all the things that were said,
Oh yeah, you're so hyped now to go build something.
I'm like, wow, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, I can see it in it. It is.
You should start those electric car.
That would be something to be cool. I think that with the minds of a 12-volt fabricator, it's just limitless what could be brought up, and designed.
Electric cars are amazing to work on. I'm telling you,
I've never owned one. My brother has one. I'm going to be a late adopter, I can tell, but he likes his. I'm not there yet, but I'm sure that's going to be something that's mainstream here pretty soon for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, appreciate it. Let me know if you guys ever want to do another sitting and go through whatever, but
for sure. I didn't get into questioning you about the boat, the cigarette boat, which was my second favorite thing
that
you ever
was
built.
That was one of the projects that I really focused on. The format of installation, what it was for. I did some really cool stuff in that boat, Inodyne spring isolators and just things that were really attributed to the type of environment that the electronics were in. I think that boat was probably one of the most complex systems that I did, maybe even a little bit more complex than the Blazer. But now that I look at it, it's like way overboard for the guy that I did it for and what he wanted. He just had a lot of money and didn't care. But I just took that as, blank check to do what I wanted. And so I just went a little crazy on that thing, did some really cool stuff.
How much time do you think you had?
That was about an 8-9 month project. But I did, custom PPS waterproof keypads that controlled the headset communication, the Vox, the audio system all ran through the headsets, because in a boat going 100 miles an hour, you're not listening to speakers, right? So I did a switching, and I built a custom keypad that had a membrane that was printed. I had a company do it for me. It had a cool motorized system on the front panel, you wave your hand in front of it and it motorized down to reveal the head unit and the EQs and stuff. Everything was spring isolated. I don't know if you guys know what Inodyne spring isolators are. They use them in pro audio cases to, they're like wire. They look like wire shock absorbers, and they use them for electronic cases. Well, back in the day, they didn't use them for that, but I found those in the Thomas Registries, which was the internet of the day, but they were books.
Hold on, Matt has
look
no
it
idea
up.
what the Thomas Registry of American
That's
Manufacturers
where all the
is.
manufacturers.
I had a set
I had all the
once.
sets, and the books were like
crazy. Yeah.
But I can't think of all the stuff that I did in that boat. A lot of control stuff, headset communication stuff, video, a lot of fiberglass, a lot of stainless steel. Just really focused on the environment. Wanted it to be really bulletproof and sound good. And I think I just went a little overboard for the guy that I built it for. But the guy that I built it for, unfortunately, got killed not too long ago. He was of British royalty. He owned Los Locos, which is a restaurant in Great Britain or London, England, somewhere. London. And he owned a helicopter company here in Texas. He also owned a hotel in Florida. But he lived in a castle in England, him and his sister. And he owned a tank collection. His name was Charles Burnett III. He owned a tank collection. He was on Discovery Channel. They were showing his tank collection. But that's who I built the boat for. He was a little bit older than me, but he was the mentality of a college guy. Just had family money.
That's awesome.
Loved cars, loved to go fast in anything, and spent a lot of money on everything. But it was an interesting thing because he called me and said, "Hey, I saw you in a magazine. I want you to build me the loudest boat on the water." And I'm thinking, okay, sure. Which to me, I'm not thinking about the loudest boat. I'm thinking about the most crazy technology built boat. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
The loud part, I'm not really that interested in that. But that was a fun project, a long project. I won Installer of the Year for that boat, I think. Yeah, 96.
1996.
Yeah.
And I was 2016 Installer of the Year.
Yeah, 1996. Yeah, that's a big...
Wow. 20 years.
20 years. That's a big stretch.
20 years gap.
Mm-hmm. A lot has happened. But you know what? I'm still the same guy and love to do the same thing. And I'm going to be 50.
That's
I'll be
awesome.
58 this year. And I still love doing the stuff. I don't think that'll ever land. For sure.
Is there any chance you're doing a system for somebody in a boat?
I don't think I'm going to be doing much for anybody again. The only person I'm going to do anything for is probably going to be me. I'm not too... Well, I might help my brother out.
What if your brother called you for
him.
payback of all those years of sanding your
other
stuff?
Than that,
I honestly feel like after this podcast, you're going to go down to your garage and Neanderthal around for a while and just stare at some stuff.
I was sanding. I'm not going to lie here. I was sanding on my my drawer fronts before I got on this deal. I just finished machining the last one. It's a 3D machine on my CNC because I didn't want just regular flat drawer fronts.
Yeah, of course you.
Yeah. So I was sanding it, and I was like, should I cover it? I got all my material cut. And I'm like, should I cover it? Well, I'm running a little bit close. I'm just going to wait. So I've got them all ready to cover. So don't be thinking I'm slacking over here.
I love it.
We're gonna need
wait till you see this closet.
pictures on the Instagram account.
Yeah, I really want to see the closet.
This thing is pimp. Super pimp. I'm telling you, it doesn't...
I'm just not going to show my wife.
No,
you're get me in
you're
trouble.
not going to want to see this closet. I'm telling you, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. It's got a starlight ceiling like a Rolls Royce too. Just wait. It's cool. It's the epitome of the best install you could put in your closet. How about that?
Love it.
There's your TV show.
Crazy closets.
Crazy closets.
You know, my wife tells me all the time, you got to go into business doing this. I'm like, oh no, there's no way. I'm not building people's closets. I'll do it for myself and you, but I'm not doing it for people.
How many woofers?
There's only one.
Question.
There's only one right now. There's only one.
There's supposed to be none.
No, there is. I have a.
Yeah, the right answer
There's
is
supposed
none.
to be none.
No, there's a subwoofer in almost every room in this house, guys. Sorry to break it to you. There is.
I love it. How many zones do you have?
I have 18 zones of Sonos.
Oh, I love it.
Yep.
I thought I was silly over here with like 4.
Now I have 18 zones of Sonos. I have 3 racks, 3 72 space racks. The tall, there's really 7 foot. Most of them are filled with Crown amps. DCIN is my amp of choice. The full network amps that have the full DSP. Those things are pimp. Yeah, most of them. Some of them are the. I'm trying to think of the model numbers here. I use a lot of the 300 by 8s, the top end, and I use the either 1250 times 4 or the 2500 times 4 for my subs. So the 10,000 watt versions for the subs. That's what I have for my bar outside, is the 10,000 watt version for my subs. It rocks,
Bro.
Oh.
You gotta host a party one time, low key,
like a 12
off
volt
the
party,
grid.
like a old school 12 volt guy
just
party.
off the grid. Yes.
Yeah, maybe so. I'll have to talk to my wife about that one.
See
But we have partied quite a bit. It's a cool place. Yeah,
Sounds
it's fun.
amazing.
It's fun. Got lights everywhere. I got DJ lights in my sunroom. I got DJ lights all outside in my patio, all DMX controlled.
Tomorrow I'm gonna drive to work with a picture of Mark on my windshield.
There you go. There you go.
Oh,
All right, guys.
I love it.
Well, it was great.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
Yeah, anytime.
I had a blast.
Anytime, let me know. I got to put kids to bed. They're like running back and forth.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you.
Well, we
it was
appreciate
great
it.
stories, great fun, great time.
Okay, guys.
Talk to you
Take
later.
care.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Hey,